Lord looked down from his window in the sky, and he said, I created man, but I don't remember why. Nothing but fighting since creation day. I think I'll send a little water, wash them all away. So the Lord came down to look around the spell. There was Noah, and he was behaving mighty well. And that is the reason why the scriptures record that Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Noah said to the Lord, there's going to be a flood. There's going to be some water and there's going to be some mud. So take off your hat, Noah, and take off your coat. Get Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Build yourself a boat. Lord said, Noah, I don't believe I could. Noah said, the Lord, you get some sturdy gopher wood, for you never know what you can do until you try. Build her 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits high. Lord said, Noah, it's getting mighty dark. Noah said, the Lord, you get my creatures in the ark. Take a creature, a he and a she, and of course, Mrs. Noah and the whole family. Lord said, Noah, it's getting mighty dark. Noah said, Lord, get my creatures in the ark. Kind of messed up on that one, but the ark rose up from the bosom of the deep, and after 40 days, Noah, he takes a peep. Lord said, Noah, we're not moving. Where are we at? He said, well, you're sitting right on Mount Ararat. Lord said, Noah, it's getting mighty dry. Noah said, the Lord, you see my rainbow in the sky? Take my creatures and people to earth. Don't be more trouble than you're worth. And Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, and he landed high and dry. That's the lyrics to a song that I kind of messed up from Tennessee Ernie Ford. That kind of dates me. But as I look around, I think everybody in here probably know Tennessee Ernie Ford, so it dates you too. I listened to it over and over and over again when I was in the first grade. My cousin and I, he had the record, and we just played it. Everything that was said is not biblically correct, as we know. It ought to have a disclaimer to it of some form and fashion. But Valerie asked me here a while back what I was going to give the lesson on today, and I said I don't have a clue. And she said, well, talk about the things that you need to work on. Well, that didn't help at all. Kendall has to work on a whole host of things. But I looked over in my shop, and I saw this. Brad gave me this here a while back. Inside this box is a cubit that he got after seeing the replica of the Ark in Kentucky. I hope I can see it myself someday before I take up the rocking chair. I would love to see it. But I got to thinking I could probably come up with a few things about Noah's Ark. We've heard that. You all know the story of Noah's Ark. I'm not going to get into all the little details about everything, but there's a couple of points I'd like to bring out today. But if you really dig into that story, you can pull more lessons out of it than you can even imagine. If you skim over it, you can read the whole thing in 5 minutes. But there's a lot of good stuff about Noah and his family and about the Lord. It's not a fairy tale, as some people say it is. It's not just a story. It's a true story. What Noah went through. Noah was first mentioned in Genesis 5:30. And it says, after Noah was born, Lamech lived 595 years and had other sons and daughters. So that right there tells me that Noah had brothers and sisters. I don't know if those brothers and sisters were alive whenever the flood hit or not. But if they were, can you even imagine Noah thinking that, looking around in his ark, they're not there, his brothers and sisters possibly outside the ark. Can you imagine how he felt in his heart about losing his brothers and sisters when he started hearing those raindrops hitting that ark? Be a tough thing. I don't know if they was alive or not. In Genesis 6, verse 5 through 7, it said, "The Lord saw how great man's wickedness was on the earth, and had become, and that every inclination of his thoughts, of his heart, was only evil at that time. The Lord was grieved that he had made man on the earth, and his heart was filled with pain. So the Lord said, I will wipe mankind whom I have created from the face of the earth, men and animals, and creatures that move along the ground, and birds of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them." Can you imagine, you look at that first verse there, every thought of every person in the world had evil thoughts. No good thoughts for anyone. I don't know how many people there was alive at this time. There was quite a few. Couldn't find one person without an evil thought. And it wasn't just an evil thought in their minds, it was evil thought clear down into their hearts. Tough deal. There was one man, Noah, who was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and it says that he walked with God. The second time we've heard somebody walking with God. Get into that in a minute. The Bible doesn't say Noah was perfect. It says he was righteous. If you look at righteousness in the Bible, or in the dictionary, it said morally correct. Something. Don't have to be perfect to be righteous, do you? We don't have to be perfect to be righteous, do we? We, with all of our sin in our life, can be useful to the Lord. Just look at some of the Bible characters that were imperfect. Jacob was a liar. Isaac was a daydreamer. Moses had speech problems. Gideon was afraid. Rahab was a prostitute. Samson, a womanizer. David was an adulterer and a murderer. Elijah was suicidal. Isaiah had preached naked. Jonah ran from God. Job was bankrupt. Martha was a worrywart. Peter denied Christ. Don't you think people like us, God can use us to do His will? Don't have to be perfect. And then you read in Genesis 9, 20 and 21, it says, Noah, a man of the soil, proceeded to plant a vineyard. When he drank some of its wine, he became drunk and lay uncovered inside his tent. Perfect man? No. Useful man? Most definitely. Noah had faith. Enoch, the seventh generation from Adam and Noah's great-great-grandfather, was the first preacher that walked for God, and said he walked with God, and said he walked with God for 300 years. Never died, did he? It just says in Genesis 5:24, he was no more. The first preacher. Enoch was. For a man to walk with God says something about his character, doesn't it? Noah also walked with God. So you got Enoch in the bloodline of Noah, and then you got Noah that was preaching all the time. Enoch's conversion rate, 0. Noah's conversion rate, 0. Both Noah and Enoch had faith, and we see in Hebrews 11:7, starting in verse 7, I'll just read it, I don't have it up there. It says, by faith, well, starting in verse 5. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as the one who pleased God. And without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family. By his faith, he condemned the world and became heir of righteousness that comes by faith. You see, Noah was faithful. Can't walk with God without it. I can see Noah with a hammer in one hand and preaching out of the other. God's a patient God. It took a while for Noah to build that ark. By the way, that's an interesting study. If you look and try to figure out how many years it took Noah to build that ark, try to figure that out sometime. Not that easy. When Noah was, God gave Noah specific directions on how to build the ark, and we see that in Genesis 6:14 through 16. And it says, make thee an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and thou shalt pitch it within and without with pitch. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. A window shalt thou make into the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above. And the door of the ark thou shalt set in the side thereof. The lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it. So the ark is 450 foot long, 75 foot wide, and is 45 foot high. And just out of curiosity's sake, I came up here yesterday, and I didn't measure it with this cubit. This cubit's a Hebrew long cubit. There's all kinds of cubits. The Babylonians had them, the Egyptians had them, different lengths. But it doesn't vary by much. This is 20.4, the Egyptian long cubit is 20.6 inches. So not much variation. It's the tip of from your elbow to the tip of your finger. So I didn't use this to measure off the ark yesterday, but I walked down here to cross the street, and I went to that first house across the street. I think it's French Street, I'm not sure. And then I walked past that house, and I walked past the church, and I kept walking. I walked clear down there to the stop sign at the end of the block. That's about how long the ark is. 3 stories tall. From here to the street out there, more or less, wide. An unbelievable feat to build something like that. So the Lord gave Noah specific directions, but wonder if Noah would have said, you know what? I hate the smell of that pitch. I'm not going to put that in here. I'll just skip that. But the ark had floated Wonder if he'd have said, you know what, that gopher wood, way up there on that mountain, right there's some aspen. I'm just going to get it. Wonder if Noah would have used the aspen instead. Wonder if he would have took shortcuts. You think his life, his family's life would have been saved? No, because he didn't follow God's directions. It's the same way for us. We're giving specific directions and instructions on how that we can be saved. We've heard them before. We need to hear, believe, repent, confess, and be baptized. And if we skip one of those, what's our chances that the Lord's going to save us? I would also add, you got to remain faithful to that. I would also add, we have to rely on God's grace too. Noah was told to put a window in the roof. Verse 16 said, put a window in the roof, and in Noah's days, Satan puts a lot of turmoil in the world. There was no need for Noah and his family to look around at the turmoil, and that's why there was no window in the side. See, we don't need to know everything that goes around outside, do we? It's what's on the inside. Our salvation doesn't come from looking down. Our salvation comes from looking up. That window's at the top for a reason. Noah followed God's directions, put it there just as he was told. Satan keeps trying to keep our eyes off the prize. He wants us to look down. Our salvation comes from above. We need to continue to look up. Noah was told to put a door in the side. The ark was the only means to be saved. But they had to walk through that door, didn't they? The ark was a place of rest, a place of refuge. Jesus is our door to being saved. He is the door to our salvation. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but by me. It takes some effort on our part, but we have to walk through the door. There are two types of people. There are saved and there are unsaved. Noah and his family were invited in. The Lord says, come into the ark. Noah and his whole family. The righteousness of one man saved an entire family. Pretty good example there for mommies and dads and their children. How to raise them. Matthew 11:28 says, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. And you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Jesus invites all of us in. He invites us today. The only thing that can separate God's love for us is us. A great story about Noah. I invite you to take another deeper look at it. We need to find time to read. The Lord invites us this morning, if we have any kind of a need today, to come to Him and for prayers or whatever the case may be. Ask Lane to lead us in a song of invitation. We do that.